What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Minnesota Fishing Brothers, and in this episode of Tackle Talk, I will be talking about topwaters, my topwater box, topwater baits, and I just want to discuss kind of how we use different topwaters, the different applications, and kind of just general, all-around discussion. All right, let's get into it. All right, so we have a few topwaters, and I kind of want to just start at the top of the box and move down. So right at the top, we got some big whopper ploppers. These are the 130s. These are the big ones. We don't get a ton of use out of these giant ones. We have caught a few bass on them, make a lot of noise, but they tend to be just a little bit big. But definitely, if you're hunting after a very aggressive bite for much larger fish, these big ones definitely seem to have an appeal for those fish. So that's definitely a use for those big ones. Now moving on to the other side, we use some spooks a lot. We catch a lot of fish on spooks. So just these three-hooked, these are baby bass spooks. These have just a gorgeous little side-to-side walking action that we absolutely love. And these are a little bit more of a subtle presentation than a whopper plopper. It's almost like a glide bait, just on the surface, almost under the surface, you could say, for the whopper ploppers. All right, moving down, we have some other kind of random topwaters. Some of these are saltwater versions of the whopper plopper, just a different version. And one thing I forgot to mention, they make a couple different kinds. They make a one knock, which has just a big bead in there that has a single knock. And then they have multiple knock ones that have several different beads. We prefer the one knock ones just because it seems to put out a much more of a clunk, 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 clunk instead of a kind of just a rattle. So we prefer one knock. We got a couple other just random. This is made by Rapple. I forget what this is called, but just kind of a swimming topwater, a little bit of a pop nose on it. They all work. Topwater. And another one, which we haven't used a ton, but definitely seems to be pretty effective, is this Rapala X-Walk. Kind of similar to a spook, but has a little bit more of an aggressive pattern than a spook. It cuts a lot more water and tends to be a little bit more of a excitable bait. So that's that. Okay, now moving over. A bait that I haven't got much use out of, but I'll try to make a video on this summer, is this Savage Gear Rat. It has a very, very, very slow action to it. If you reel this thing will just dive. And so you basically just have to reel it very slowly, and it just kind of curves and curves. It looks nice. I've had a few hits on it, but I've never caught anything on it. Very rattly little guy. Comes with an extra tail, but the jury's still out on this one. And then we got some smaller whopper ploppers right here. This is kind of the best size, the 110. This is definitely the bread and butter for us, for the whopper ploppers. Kind of perfect size for all around, bigger, larger fish, or bigger, smaller fish, smallmouth and whatnot have easier time getting this in their mouth. Definitely kind of our go-to size. We also do have I think this is the 90 size, which is a little bit more of a finesse whopper plopper. I know it's weird to call a whopper plopper a finesse bait, but definitely more of a finesse presentation for a whopper plopper. Kind of gets, a little bit more finicky fish, maybe if the conditions aren't perfect for topwater. And then a new bait that I picked up this year is this whopper plopper 75. As you can see right there, it almost looks like a square bill with how it's like the body. It's a fatter one. What's weird is it's bigger. It almost is like bigger than the 90, but I kind of have a feeling this one will be a little bit more, maybe a little bit more subtle of how it goes. But I'm really excited to try this out. It's a sexy shad pattern. and it does look good. Haven't had a chance to try it, but I'm expecting good things from that. Okay, now moving on to something we've had a lot of luck on, but unfortunately can be very, very, very condition specific. So here it is. This is the Storm Arashi Cover Pop. So this is just a popper, a small, well, it's not a small popper, a popper. It has a couple of rattles in the back, and we found this to be very effective throwing around cover. That's what it's called, why it's called a cover pop. You throw it, especially up against a dock, and just boom, 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 just give it a couple little pops. I'd say you don't work it many more than just a few pops, and you just crank it in and throw it again. But you throw it against those very high percentage areas that you have on a dock or whatnot. Just throw it up against there and just work it a few times and reel it in, throw it to another spot. We have caught a lot of big fish, especially near like laydowns or timber, floating timber. Or another thing we found is around pencil reeds. That tends to be a good bait too, to throw around pencil reeds, that Arashi Cover Pop. So keep that in mind. All right, and the final bait that we use for topwater is this Storm. It's a Storm Arashi wake crank. It looks like a square bell or something. In fact, that's actually what I thought it was when I first saw it. I thought it was a square bell, but it doesn't. It kind of has this weird action where the nose kind of dives and then the back wiggles. Very, very interesting, and has a very good action for disturbing or getting fish up to come up and eat it from below. Definitely had some good luck on this square, or not square, almost called it a square bill. It's not a square bill. On this topwater, another very subtle one, because that's kind of how I break my topwaters when I'm deciding on how to use which one to use. That's kind of where I make cuts. Is, are the fish aggressively feeding? If they're aggressively feeding, I go with a more aggressive pattern. But if you're kind of not so sure, maybe they're short striking, especially if they're short striking an aggressive bait, switch to something smaller. Switch to a little bit, if you're having a lot of trouble hooking up on the whopper plopper, maybe go with a wake bait. Just try something a little bit more subtle, something they'll have a little bit easier time taking in and swallowing, so you can get a good hook set on them. So, but yeah, that's basically our topwater selection. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, drop it down in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.